Don't bother coming for Thanksgiving. My mom said coldly. I just smiled and replied. Then don't bother using my card. That night, I canceled their gas, groceries, and mortgage autopay and remind them who was providing. Hey Reddit, my name is Chelsea, and I'm 29 years old. I've always been the one who held it together in my family, even when no one asked me to. Especially when no one asked me to. Growing up, we weren't poor by definition, but we were always a paycheck away from some sort of disaster. The electricity being shut off, eviction notices, bill collectors calling during dinner. My dad worked as a mechanic at a garage downtown, and my mom took up various house cleaning jobs. They always managed to keep food on the table. But love, emotional safety, that wasn't exactly part of the household package. My mother Nancy was a sharp woman, not intellectually, but emotionally. Her tongue was her strongest weapon, and she didn't believe in sparing anyone's feelings, least of all mine. You think life cares about your feelings? Chelsea, toughen up. She'd snap any time I got emotional. My father Bill was quieter, a man who buried himself in tools and engine grease just to avoid conflict. And then there was Emily, my younger sister by 4 years, who somehow got the warmth I never received. Maybe by then Mom had softened, or maybe she just preferred Emily's compliance. By the time I turned 16, I had already made up my mind. I was going to escape. College was my ticket out of the cold war zone that was our house. I studied obsessively, applied for every scholarship, and took out loans that made me sick to my stomach. When I left home at 18, I carried nothing but a duffel bag, an overworked laptop, and years' worth of emotional baggage. I didn't talk to my parents much during college, except for the occasional birthday call or a dry text on Christmas. I was too busy juggling 2 part-time jobs and classes. I pulled graveyard shifts at a diner and worked weekends at a bookstore. My roommates partied, dated, lived like college students. I barely slept. I had no time to breathe. But I made it. I graduated near the top of my class, landed a financial analyst job, and threw myself into work with the same determination that had got me through everything else. Promotions followed, so did bigger paychecks. I moved into a small but chic apartment, treated myself to new clothes, took solo trips. For the first time, life was mine to control, and that's when they started calling again. At first, it was subtle. My mom mentioned how expensive groceries were. My dad mumbled about the car needing repairs. Emily hinted that they were behind on their mortgage. No one ever asked directly. My mother's pride wouldn't allow it, but the subtext was loud and clear. So I offered help. Quietly, I set up autopay for their electricity and gas. I linked my credit card to their grocery delivery app. When Emily cried to me over the phone one night, telling me they were weeks behind on the mortgage, and my mom was hiding it from my dad, I stepped in again. I linked my card and made the minimum payments until they caught up. Except they never caught up, because I was the one keeping them afloat. Month after month, hundreds of dollars slipped out of my account into theirs. They never said thank you, never acknowledged the lifeline I gave them. But I kept going. Maybe I wanted validation. Maybe I wanted to prove to them, and to myself, that I was good, that I mattered, that even if I wasn't the daughter they praised or hugged or bragged about, I could still be the one they relied on. The closer Thanksgiving came this year, the more I looked forward to seeing them, not because I missed the awkward silences and the subtle jabs about how I was too ambitious, but because I wanted to finally feel like part of the family again, like all my effort, all my sacrifices meant something. So I called my mom 1 week before Thanksgiving to coordinate. Her tone was flat, almost dismissive. Hey, Mom. Just wanted to check if I should bring dessert again this year. There was a long pause. We're actually not doing a big thing this year. Oh, I said, trying to mask my confusion. Why not? We just want to keep it simple. Just us, I blinked, thrown off. Us like who? Me, your dad. Emily and her boyfriend, you know. Just the 4 of us. I was quiet for a moment. So not me, it's not personal. Chelsea, she said coolly. You're always so busy with your job. We figured you probably had better things to do. Better things to do. Was this the same woman whose gas and groceries were literally being paid for by my debit card every week? I laughed, stunned by the audacity. Wow, okay, there was silence on the other end. Don't bother coming for Thanksgiving, she said finally, like a door slamming shut. And then, something inside me snapped. I wasn't angry, not immediately. It was something colder, sharper. I took a breath, steadying my voice. Then don't bother using my card. There was silence again. What's that supposed to mean? She asked flatly. It means if I'm not family enough to sit at the table, I'm not family enough to pay for the table. Chelsea, don't be dramatic, she said, her voice laced with irritation. No, I replied calmly. I'm being practical. I hung up before she could say another word. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into every account. One by one, I disconnected my cards. I called the bank and froze the auto-pay systems. I left their fridge and tank as empty as they made me feel. The next morning, I had 4 missed calls from Dad and 3 messages from Emily. Dad's voicemail was his usual nervous rambling. Hey sweetheart, I think something's wrong with the card. We couldn't get gas, and your mom said the grocery app declined. Emily's text was heartbreaking. Chelsea, what happened? Mom didn't tell us anything. Please don't do this to Dad. You know he needs his meds and the heat's already off. Please call me. I stared at the screen, emotion boiling under the surface. For years, I was expected to do everything, support them, forgive them, prove myself, beg for affection. But the second I stopped serving a purpose, I was disposable, expendable. I didn't reply, not yet. Instead, I booked myself a solo reservation at a restaurant downtown for Thanksgiving Day, a little Italian place with warm lighting and no judgment. I'd wear my favorite sweater, order the most expensive bottle of wine, and enjoy a meal I paid for with money I earned for me. For once, I wouldn't be performing gratitude while being emotionally starved. I wouldn't sit at a table where my presence was a technicality, not a welcome. No, this year, I was done begging to be part of a family that only remembered me when they needed something. But deep down, I knew this storm wasn't over. Thanksgiving morning was silent, not peaceful, just quiet in that heavy, hollow way that reminds you something is missing. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up to the sound of pots clanging or my phone buzzing with texts about grocery lists and who's bringing what. Instead, I made myself a slow cup of coffee, poured it into my favorite mug, and walked to the window, watching a gray November sky drift above the city. I expected to feel free, liberated, but mostly I felt unsettled, like the years I spent earning my place at that table had vanished into the cold morning air. By 9 a.m., my phone had already rung 3 times. All from Emily. I didn't answer at first. I needed to sit in my silence, to process the fact that for the first time ever, my presence and my money wouldn't be holding Thanksgiving together. But the 4th call came at 9:43 a.m., and something in my gut told me to pick up. Chelsea, Emily's voice was strained. Panicked even. What happened? Mom just told Dad you weren't coming, and that it was your idea. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, because she told me not to come. Her exact words were don't bother coming for Thanksgiving. So I told her not to bother using my card. There was a long pause on the other end. She didn't tell Dad that part. Emily whispered, he's furious. He thought you canceled for work. Now nothing's working, the groceries didn't show up. The heat's off, and Mom's pretending she's got it all under control. I sighed and sat down on the edge of my bed, rubbing my temple. So she's still spinning the story. Huh, of course she is. She made cinnamon rolls on the grill outside like it's a camping trip. Meanwhile, Dad's limping around because he hasn't taken his meds. And I caught her lying to him about the mortgage being late. I closed my eyes, trying to steady the rising ache in my chest. Emily, do you realize how long I've been doing this? The gas, groceries, power, their mortgage. It wasn't a one-time favor. I've been quietly covering everything for over 2 years. I know, she said softly. I've known. And I'm sorry I didn't speak up. Why didn't you? I asked, sharper than I intended. Because I was afraid. Because she controls everything. And because you seemed untouchable. Chelsea, like you didn't need anyone. You always had it together. My voice cracked as I answered. That's the thing, I didn't. I needed family too. I just kept trying to buy my way into it. Emily was silent for a while. Then quietly she said, I want to get out of here. I'm sick of this cycle. Of pretending like she isn't emotionally toxic. Of watching Dad shrink into himself because he doesn't want to rock the boat. I want better. Tears sprang to my eyes. Then let's get you better. Will you meet me later? After all this mess, just us. I wiped my eyes and smiled. Yeah, I'd like that by late afternoon. While other families were laughing around tables, filled with turkey and cranberry sauce, I was sitting at a warm bistro downtown. Alone but calm. The waiter, a kind man named Luke, poured me a glass of red wine and offered me an extra bread basket on the house. I ordered butternut squash ravioli with sage butter, garlic mashed potatoes, and a slice of pumpkin cheesecake. I didn't miss the chaos. I didn't miss the backhanded compliments or the passive-aggressive glances when I used a nicer purse or offered to help clean up and got ignored. What I missed, what I grieved, was the idea of a mother who would have been proud of me without condition, who wouldn't see my success as an ego threat. After dinner, I walked 2 blocks to a small coffee shop across from the old bookstore where I used to buy second-hand novels in college. Emily and I had agreed to meet there. At 6:30 p.m., she was already there, huddled in a corner booth, wrapped in her coat like armor. When she saw me, her face crumpled, and she stood up quickly to hug me. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I know," I said, hugging her back. We sat down with cappuccinos and shared a piece of caramel apple pie. For nearly 2 hours, we just talked like real sisters. Emily told me about how tired she was of mom's control, of being guilt-tripped into staying, of living in a house where she couldn't breathe. She told me how mom once told her she'd never survive on her own, and how she believed her for years. "She tells you you're helpless, then make sure you are," I said. "That's not love, that's manipulation." Emily nodded. "I want out. I'll get a roommate if I have to. I can't keep doing this. You won't have to do it alone." I told her, I'll help with a deposit, or the first month's rent. No strings, but only if it's on your terms." She blinked at me, her eyes welling again. "You're sure?" "Absolutely, but you pay your own Netflix." I joked. She laughed for the first time that day, and it was like breathing air after being underwater too long. That night, after we said goodbye and I got home, I saw a new notification on my phone, a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Enjoy your little tantrum. Don't come around for Christmas either. You've shown your true colors." I didn't need to guess. It was Mom. I stared at it, letting the cold finality sink in. She didn't ask why I cut the card. She didn't express concern for the family. She didn't try to understand. Just accusation, control, dismissal. So I replied, "I won't be coming. But I hope someday you realize what you lost. Not my money, but me." I hit send, blocked the number, and exhaled. It felt final but also freeing. Over the next few weeks, things started to shift. Emily found a small 1-bedroom unit in a walkable part of town, and I helped her get moved in. She started taking yoga classes and working extra shifts at the library to cover her expenses. Every time we talked, her voice sounded lighter. One day, she called and told me, "I realized something. You didn't just pull the plug on the money. You pulled the plug on the dynamic. And now that it's gone, I'm starting to see everything clearly." I smiled. "Good. It was never your job to hold broken things together." And as for Mom and Dad, I haven't spoken to them since. I saw a payment went through on the mortgage, from their own account this time. The grocery card was updated. Life moved on without my financial support, proving they could manage all along. They just preferred not to. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I was done bleeding to keep others warm. This Thanksgiving didn't just mark a canceled dinner. It marked the end of years of quiet sacrifice, of unspoken resentment, of begging to be included while bankrolling the whole show. And as I lit a candle in my apartment that night, sitting with my journal and a warm cup of tea, I wrote one simple sentence across the page. "I am not responsible for saving people who choose to sink." And for the first time in my adult life, I truly believed it.